What's up, Gabe Blue here from Default Kings, and in this video we're going over how these 5 Christian entrepreneurs and high-level professionals lost 294.9 pounds without cutting out carbs, without eating something different than the family at family dinner time, without being the weird guy who's on some weird diet at networking events, and without wasting hours of valuable work time in the gym or cooking complicated meals. Okay, if you don't know who I am and you don't know who we are, my name is Gabe Pluguez, and this is my business partner, Joe Joheim. We're the owners of defaultkings.com, and we teach Christian entrepreneurs the biblical process to lose fat, build muscle, and finally become consistent so that they can sustain those results for life. And since 2019, we've helped over 600 men at the time of this recording get results like the 5 guys who you see here and who we're going over today. First in line is going to be Gavin. He's a 50-year-old father of 5 who owns multiple businesses. Next up is going to be Jim. He's a 69-year-old grandfather of 17 and a C-suite executive. Following him will be Parker. He is a doctor who works 80 hours a week, and he's a father of 2. Next in line is going to be Alex. He is a dad of 1 in the crypto space, 36 years old. And last but not least will be Drew. He is a 40-year-old sales professional who lost 119 pounds. And so important information before we dive in is that this is only for you if you are a Christian entrepreneur, a high-level executive, a sales professional, or a high-level professional of some kind who is stuck somewhere between about 200 to about 300 pounds. This is also for you if you feel like you just don't have the time, or you're not making the time to prioritize your health. This is also for you if you've been motivated enough to try things like keto or intermittent fasting and actually lost some weight in the past, but your unhealthy default actions keep creeping back in, and so the weight comes crashing back on. And this is specifically for you if you don't know the exact game plan to lose fat, build muscle, and sustain that progress in the midst of work stress, driving the kids back and forth, and traveling. And this is even more specifically for you if you need to overcome the mental blocks and the eating habits and the lack of discipline and the lack of consistency that's either keeping you stuck or leading to weight gain or low energy or poor health, or that's really just making you a worse example to the people that you are called to lead. Okay, now, equally as important, this is not for you if you are a woman, if you are not a business owner or entrepreneur or executive or sales professional or high-level professional of some kind. This is also not for you if you don't need to lose fat or get leaner. And this is also not for you if you're opposed to or offended by learning from a biblical perspective. And this is also, very importantly, not for you if you are not committed to making a change. Okay, so if any of these apply to you, please listen to Donald Trump and understand that you are fired. Leave this page and do not book a call. Okay, but I want you to know that I do have a goal for this video. My goal for this video is that by the end of the video, you know what you need to know in order to break out of the weight loss, weight regain cycle that you're caught in right now. And it's also to reveal what each of these men specifically focused on in their situations to be able to lose the fat, build the lean muscle, and build the healthy default action so they can stay consistent long term. Okay. So if at any point in this video, you're thinking, you know what, this is for me, and you want to speak directly with myself or directly with Joey or another one of the professionals on our team about how we contractually guarantee that you lose 10 to 30 pounds in the next 12 weeks or more, and that you build the consistency to keep losing weight and sustain the results after that, then you can pause this video and click one of the buttons above or below this video to book your free fat loss assessment. You can also go to defaultkings.com to book that free fat loss assessment. Now, how did these 5 business owners and high-level professionals lose 294.9 pounds? Let's start with Gavin. Gavin lost 32 pounds in 12 weeks. He is the 50-year-old husband and father of 5 who owns multiple businesses. And when he started, he told me that he eats generally healthy. Those were his words, but he would still overeat late at night. And the crazy part was he actually had access to some of the best equipment in the world because one of the gyms or one of the businesses he owned, ironically, was a gym. But he felt like he just didn't have the time to work out. He tried keto, he tried intermittent fasting, but those just didn't stick. And he tried the Insanity workout DVDs and also the Beachbody workout DVDs, but they were never tailored to him specifically. And so clothes started to fit tight in all the wrong places. He got tired of his teenage boys making those fat dad jokes. um, and he felt like he always made time for everyone and everything else, but he never made time to take care of himself. And so he really liked how we preached a sustainable approach instead of the quick fix fads they had tried before. And he wasn't the type of guy to make fast decisions, but he made the commitment anyway because of the one-on-one accountability and the custom tailored programs. And those were the two big things that for Gavin specifically made the transformation possible. The combination of accountability from other Christian men and other business owners and other Christian fathers, because the Bible says iron sharpens iron, not any old soft old thing sharpens iron, and also the custom tailored program that was designed specifically for Gavin's body and for Gavin's life. Okay, so now he's down 32 pounds, and his wife says that his clothes are fitting tight in all the right places. Okay, and all the other travel volleyball dads are starting to notice the changes, and they're even asking him for help too. And he's even looking better on camera, which is really important for business. Onward, let's go to Jim. Jim, he lost 32.5 pounds in 12 weeks, and he's the 69-year-old Christian C-suite executive, husband, father of 6, and grandfather of 17, and that is a DK record. So if you got that beat, please let me know. I'd love to know. But he has that classic story of spending decades building his career and never prioritizing his health. And because of the high demand and high stress of his position, he struggled with stress eating. Okay. And so he ends up getting to about 230 pounds to 240 pounds. And he ended up needing an arterial bypass surgery, and it was critical. He needed to get the surgery. So he gets the surgery, but this is a huge wake up call for him. And so Jim, after getting the surgery, he cuts out alcohol and he starts doing this diet of the week series. But the crazy part is, even after making those changes and after that wake up call, he still hovered between 230 and between 240 for 8 years. Now, 8 years go by where he's still stuck in this range. And, he was motivated enough and he was working at it. He would start workouts. But one of the crazy mental blocks that he was suffering with was that he would start these workouts and his computer for work was in the same room as his home gym. And he'd see the notifications popping off. He would go address those fires that had to be put out, and he would cut his workout short. And he was trading that, right? I mean, it was really difficult mental block that he was struggling with. But anyway, 8 years go by. He gets tired of relying on medications for blood pressure and cholesterol. And he was at the point where he needed to be healthy, because at him and his wife's age, if nobody was there to be able to take care of his wife, if he wasn't there to be able to take care of his wife, nobody else would have been there to take care of his wife. And so I messaged him on LinkedIn, and he was really intrigued by our Christian approach. And so he focused heavily on bringing his faith into his fitness and really starting to treat his body like a temple of the Holy Spirit. And then he also focused on starting to track his workouts in our app and focused on hitting PRs so that he can actually, in a programmed way, start to build lean and functional muscle. And so Jim ended up losing 32 pounds, 32.5 pounds in 12 weeks, went from 234 to 201. And he's now completely off of one of those blood pressure medications. And he's down to taking half a dose of one of the other. And of course, that means that he's healthier to be able to take care of his wife and be active with his 17 grandkids. He actually told his wife that he's going to have to buy all new suits now. And he joked with me that we should start a suit company for guys at the end of Default Kings, because that'd be a lucrative revenue stream. So that's Jim. He focused heavily on bringing his faith into his fitness. And then he started to actually track his workouts and use the programmed workouts we had for him so that he can build that lean, functional muscle. Now, Parker is a man. Parker lost 56.4 pounds in 16 weeks. And Parker, he's in a little bit of a different situation. He is 31 years old, and he's a former college athlete. Okay, so former college athlete, he had that mentality. And he is a doctor, and he was working 80 hours a week. And he is also a father of 2 young boys. And he had tried keto, intermittent fasting, and other restrictive diets. And he actually knew how to lose weight because he's a doctor. And he would lose some weight every time he would get motivated enough to get strict. But that would only last a few weeks, and he would always gain the weight back because he couldn't stay consistent. So he was at the point where he really wanted to start setting a healthy example for his two young boys who were paying attention, so that health could become second nature to them just through observation. And he felt like he didn't have the time to do it because he was working 80 hours a week, but he changed his mindset specifically from the excuse of, or the harmful pattern of, I'm being strict to lose weight over the next few weeks. He changed that to, these are my new daily habits. I am literally becoming a new person. So he had that identity shift. And so big things he focused on were making sure he was in a caloric deficit by tracking his calories and protein in our app. And he also weighed himself every day to keep himself accountable. And then he leaned heavily into his 24/7 access to us and our team to be held accountable. And so he lost 56.4 pounds from 288 to 231 in 16 weeks. And he says that he has his confidence back for the first time in a long time. And he has more energy for his two kiddos and for his family. And one of the coolest parts is that he said he was able to do this without changing his family eating dynamic, since it wasn't another fad restrictive diet, but it was a lifestyle change. So that is Parker. Focus on tracking his calories and protein in our app, weighing himself every single day, and being held accountable by our team. Now, going forward, Alex Guerrera. Alex Guerrera, he is the 36-year-old Christian father of one who's in the crypto space and travels all over the world for networking events, multiple different countries per year, type of thing. And he lost 55 pounds in 18 months. But when he started, he was the 201-pound classic dad bod, and he hated this. He hated what he looked like shirtless and in clothes at networking events. And he felt like he knew what he needed to do as well, because he had a nutritional science certification. And that was kind of interesting, watching him hold that up to the Zoom camera when we first chatted. But he couldn't get himself to do it consistently. And so he was observing his father and his father's health struggles, and he didn't want to experience the same thing. And also, this started to affect him mentally as well, because it wasn't just about his fitness. It was about him breaking those small promises to himself when he would hit snooze or eat something he knew he shouldn't be eating. And he started to ruin his trust in himself and damage his self-respect. And that bled into him feeling like he was stuck in this relationship with a woman who didn't respect him. But the problem was, he didn't have the confidence in himself to do what he knew he needed to do in that relationship. And so when he started, he knew it was a big investment for him, but he decided to commit. He went deep into our video module course that teaches the biblical process for the mindset shift to help him become more consistent and keep those promises to himself. And he leaned heavily into our one-on-one coaching to help break past the mental blocks and be consistent with his game plan while traveling for his networking events. And so he ended up losing 55 pounds, getting abs, and getting fit enough to start training jujitsu, which was something that he never thought would be possible. And so flash forward, of course, he's looking a lot better in clothes for networking events. And really cool news, he had the confidence to do what he knew he needed to do with that relationship that he was stuck in. And honestly, what might be the coolest part of all this is, because he was now fit enough to train jujitsu, he had something that he can do with his daughter. So he starts training with his daughter, and he starts to set that disciplined and consistent example for his daughter. And his daughter takes that discipline into her own training. And now his daughter is winning tournaments in jiu-jitsu. She's a jiu-jitsu champion. She's competing at the national level. Alex himself has won jiu-jitsu tournaments now too, which is something that he never thought was possible. But down 55 pounds in 18 months, focused heavily on the video module course that teaches the biblical process for the mindset shift, and then the one-on-one coaching to break past those mental blocks and stay consistent. Now, last but not least, Drew Hartman. Drew lost 119 pounds in 12 months. 119 pounds in 12 months. This is him on the left, where in this group picture, I cropped out everybody else just to show him, but he's kind of hiding in the corner, right? 325 pounds. In the middle here, when he's down about 70-ish pounds, he's actually on this networking trip in Croatia. Joey and I were on the same trip. Long story. But he's on one of these networking trips across the world in Europe on a yacht. We had a lot of good food this week. And in this picture, he's like proudly in the middle, showing his midsection, right? Suit open, already a complete transformation. Now, flash forward to about that 12-month mark. He is 206 pounds, down 119 pounds. And he doesn't even know that this picture is being taken. It's a candid, but you can see that his muscles are popping through his shirt in this picture that he's not even posing for. So quite the transformation, but he had a really interesting start in his DK journey. Again, 325, 40 years old, a sales professional. And when he started his DK journey, he was in the middle of selling his family business. And the interesting thing is that he had to sell his family business because his father, who ran the business, had just died of a sudden heart attack at the young age of 65, like most of the other men in his family. And so he's in the middle of all this. And Drew, he actually decided to start taking care of his health because he knew that if nothing changed, he would end up like his dad. But he decided to do this before we ever talked. Before we ever talked, he started taking group workout classes. He started strict dieting. He was eating like 1,200 calories a day. And before ever talking to us, he had lost 100 pounds on his own before ever working with us. I know what you might be thinking, like, what? He was 425 before he started working with you? No. He lost 100 pounds on his own doing these group workout classes and strict dieting. But then COVID happened and he lost the external validation that he was getting from these group workouts where everybody was telling him, man, you're losing weight. And so on top of that, his diet started to feel unsustainable because he was starving himself. And eventually, unhealthy default actions, the unhealthy underlying habits that he'd been dealing with for decades, they started to slip back in and the weight started to crash back on. And so when we first talked, he was actually in that process of gaining the weight back. And he thought that he had gained maybe 30 or 40 pounds back based on how clothes were fitting and how he was looking in the mirror. But the reality is he hadn't weighed himself because he was afraid of what the scale might say. And so when we talked, I asked him to weigh himself. And he gets up from the Zoom, he walks to his bathroom, weighs himself, and he comes back. And when he comes back, he's got tears in his eyes. And I'm like, oh, what happened? And I asked him how much he weighed. And he figured out in that moment that he hadn't just gained some weight back, but he had gained all of the weight back and then some. He had gained 100 plus pounds back after losing 100 pounds and then some. And that was a hard moment. It's hard to see him realize that. And in that moment, of course, I'm trying to encourage Drew, but he wasn't sure that he was actually ready to commit to losing weight because he remembered how hard it was the first time. And he just saw evidence that he can sustain it. So he was kind of like, what's the point? I can't imagine doing that again. I want to gain it all back. But what assured him was the guidance in our easy, lean eating system, because he knew that system, what was going to be what coached him, not just to lose the weight by any means, but to stay full in the process of losing the weight and to be able to still eat out and eat the foods that he enjoyed and still participate in these social eating situations with his friends. He knew that this easy lean eating system would make the process easier this time around. And he also knew that it would work differently this time around because this time he was bringing God into it. And when you bring God into it, everything changes. And on top of that, we gave him 100% money back guarantee. So if he was unhappy with it, for any reason, we promised him his money back. And of course, that did not happen. So flash forward 2 years later, Drew is down 119 pounds, and that only took him 12 months. Now, the coolest thing about this, though, is not even that he's down 119 pounds. He had lost 100 before. The coolest thing about this is that he's maintained his ideal weight range for a whole year and a half since hitting it because he changed his default actions. And this is all happening while he's doing these traveling and while he's doing these networking events. Okay. And while he's in the middle of selling his family business. And now he's at the point where he's maintained that ideal weight range for about a year and a half since then. And his family and friends, they're asking him for help now. And we've even had Drew come in and sub in nutrition coaching calls inside Default Kicks. So incredible life-changing story. And the big things for him were the easy lean eating system that taught him how to lose the weight sustainably and changing his default actions, bringing God into it so that he can sustain the results. So that is it. That is everyone. And so if you got through this and you're sitting here right now and you're like, hey, I want to do the same thing. I want to lose the fat. I want to build the muscle. I want to change my lifestyle so that I can be healthy, fit, high energy, not just for how it looks and how it makes me feel about how I look, but for how it impacts my family and how it impacts the mission that God has placed on my life, how it impacts my business. Then go ahead and click one of the buttons above or below this video and book a free fat loss assessment where at the time, at least of this recording, you'll still be able to talk to myself or Joey one-on-one directly. And we're going to be going over your situation and getting to know you. And if it sounds like we can help, of course, we will show you the full rundown of what it could all look like. But even if it doesn't sound like we can help, we'll just give you some advice to break past where you're at right now, worst case scenario. And so go ahead and book that free fat loss assessment. Again, if it seems like a good fit, then our contractual guarantee to you is that you'll lose at least 10 to 30 pounds in the first 12 weeks, and that we guarantee that you will keep it off for good or your money back. Okay, go ahead and book that free fat loss assessment. Talk soon.